Mob of white nationalist Proud Boys brutally beat several men. Reads the headline on Think Progress from a hideous gay fat pig named Zach Ford. It's a certain type of gay. They're ugly and fat, and they have a lot of time on their hands because they don't have a family, and they're single because gays tend to be pretty superficial, and when you're fat and ugly, you're basically doomed. Fat and ugly women, there's a guy out there for you. Fat and ugly men, that if they're gay, sorry, boys. So they spend all their time getting revenge on society, and they especially hate, happily married men who love the West. So he's one of these meddlers. They're just like little gremlins. They just get in there. They're like little computer viruses in society. Like, go look up the two fat, ugly gays who got, what's his name, fired from Mozilla. Remember that guy? Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. I'm doing this all the time now. Is it Brett Eichner or something? Mozilla CEO fired. Brendan Eich. That's it. That really made me mad, that one case. Remember him? He was caught donating to like a pro-family organization, and that gays saw that as anti-gay, so they had him fired from Mozilla. Brilliant software designer, career decimated. And they look like Zach Ford. Anyway, sorry. So the colon after that headline, and the gays know their colons, are you brave now, faggot? Now, they were referring to a street brawl that happened after my talk at the Manhattan Republican Club. And Think Progress obviously has a very biased view. It's funny how when you're really involved in something and you were there and you're the guy in the story, you see how much the media lies and how bad they are at telling the story. So their version is that these Trump supporters went to see a thing where they celebrated a socialist being murdered, and then they went roaming the street beating up random people in a homophobic way. Now, there is truth in the word faggot. It was used. And I've seen Proud Boys. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the story soon, but we're starting at the end. I've seen Proud Boys say, why'd you say faggot, dude? That makes us look bad. And I say, it's a bad word. Someone jumps you, steals your hat, and then gets beaten so bad that the Antifa kid they beat up was in tears. He was crying. Now, while this person's crying, I'm sorry, but faggot is a handy term. It's very rarely used against gays. In fact, Louis C.K. has this whole bit about how he would never call a gay a faggot. He goes, you don't call homosexuals faggots, you call faggots faggots. It means a man who was crying, basically. In fact, most gays I know are a lot tougher and more alpha than most straights. Like, you look at Christopher Matthias, is that his name? He's a writer for Huffington Post, yeah. And he's an Antifa kid who pretends to be a journalist and is really just a publicist for Antifa. He did an article about the whole thing. And, his version of events, you read it and you're just like, this is just Antifa propaganda. And I gave him all these quotes that he's since put in because I pressured him, I intimidated him. But in the first version of his story, he had none of my quotes, and he had some racial epithet I used in a joke in 2004 included in there. Somehow that's linked to the fight. Now, is that journalism, or is that someone trying to fabric a story? That is Antifa propaganda. But it's not a great word, faggot. It's a terrible word. It's like cunt. It's a bad word, and you swear when you're in a fight. Your adrenaline is pounding. What are you going to do? Be sort of civil about it and say, "Are you brave now? You don't seem as brave, you bloody coward." Like the Antifa manifesto they put on the door. Anyway, okay, so that's the end of the story. Let me go back to the beginning. About a year ago, I was reading about this guy, Otoya Yamaguchi, and he assassinated Iniro Henshigoto or something, who was the head of the Japan Socialist Party. Japan's Socialist Party is still going, by the way. They're called the Socialist Democrats, a.k.a. pretty much every lefty in New York City. And so this guy, he's a 17-year-old student, 1960, October 12th, and he impaled the head of the socialist with a samurai sword, a katana. Went right up into his guts. And then he stabbed him again, made sure he was dead. He was very dead. And then the kid was arrested. He was wearing his school uniform, too. Kid was arrested, and then in jail, with toothpaste, he writes on the wall of his cell, 7 lives for my country, which is from a poem about the emperor that was written by this samurai that was the greatest warrior in the history of Japan. And then he hanged himself. And I just thought, holy shit, what a fucking badass. Like, you didn't shoot him from afar. He didn't get him in his scopes on a grassy knoll. He charged him on the stage with a samurai sword. And I thought, and his mugshot looks really cool. He's got his Japanese school uniform with an army jacket on and his sort of wonky glasses, his Ray-Bans. And I just thought, what a great icon. What a great hero. And it's fun trolling liberals with these kind of icons because they're just so easily triggered. Like the whole Pinochet did nothing wrong and freak helicopter rides for communists. They get so mad. They're so sensitive. God, you guys are so sensitive that you realize we made up things like snowflake and the OK sign and milk and he will not divide us and the frog Pepe. Those are all just to make you scream, you realize. You're like, I remember reading about the original settlers in Canada, the English, and they would talk about these barbarians, these savages, these Indians who are mentally ill and keep jumping out of bushes and screaming because they're deranged. And you realize when you read it, they were scaring you, dummy. You're just so sensitive that it was fun to hide behind a bush and go, boo, because you would freak out. So that's what we are. We're the Indians hiding behind the bushes and saying boo. So we had a boo night. And I dressed up like Otoya Yamaguchi, and Ryan Katsu Rivera dressed up as the socialist dude. And I stabbed him with the samurai sword. And we did it in slow motion. I'm going to be playing this on my show, CRTV, tonight at CRTV.com. We're going to be playing the whole speech, and I'll talk about it more and show some videos. But he was like, he comes on and he goes, Horukasa, soro to yo, in soro. He speaks a little Japanese. And then he starts going, Urokashiro. And then I come out going, Urosoroka. And because if you look up the assassination online, there's a lot of slow-mo of it because it happened really fast. And so we were reenacting not just the assassination of this socialist, but we were reenacting the slow-mo footage. So then I stabbed him and did a speech, but it was quite tense because the previous night, word got out that a Nazi was coming to New York City, a place I've been at for 20 years now. I was like, don't let Nazis in your town. And it's some fat chick with blue hair on her computer who spells my name wrong and says he's coming, he's a Nazi, and he's going to be spreading his white supremacy at this Manhattan Republican Club on October 13th. She gets the day wrong, so they have to resend out their flyer with updated dates. Stunning incompetence. And obviously, if you're getting the date wrong and spelling my name wrong, you don't know who I am. And if you don't know who I am, you're not really in this. Like, you're not involved. You're not politically curious. Even the signs, I'm jumping ahead here a little bit. Sorry, I'm really hungover because this all happened last night. Even the signs had my name spelled wrong. It was like Gavin McInnes, IS, is a fascist. These are signs, by the way, that are mass printed and beautifully designed. In other words, professionally designed. In other words, funded. These are not handmade signs. This is, money's coming from somewhere. I don't know where it is. Open Society Foundation, the DNC, the Socialist Democrats. I don't know. But this was not a grassroots thing. People were being paid. And I think they were looking for optics. So I think they wanted to get beaten up. And they got that optic at the end of the night. So what happened on so this is, I'm talking about Friday night, right? Today is Saturday. Thursday night, anarchists went to the Manhattan Club, and they vandalized, they smashed all the windows, they put anarchy logos on the front doors, and then they and this is all over the media. I mean, I already had to do this podcast about it, but all this information is easy to find. And then they nailed a manifesto to the door. Is there anything more academic and pretentious than that? It's probably from 1930s communist movement stuff. It's not organic. Like, that's what I hate about all of these fuckers. There's no sincerity there, you know? Like, if you disagree with what I have to say, pay for a ticket, come and do the Q&A. I'm not a hard guy to get a hold of. Come on my show. I begged Christopher Matthias, the HuffPo pussy, to come on my show. But they're not looking for the truth. So this academic dunce, they put this manifesto in the door, and it is dripping with academia. It is so post-secondary education. You can tell this guy's parents are in academia, and it's just like from the ivory tower. There is no grit. There's no sincerity in this. But listen, I'll just read you the letter that they nailed to the door, and tell me if this isn't just university gobbledygook. Tonight, we put the Republican Party on notice. In defiance to the policy of mass misery they have championed, the U.S. government has established concentration camps around the country for Latino people. They're talking about the jails you put illegals in. Sorry, what would you like us to do? Shamelessly murders black people. They're talking about cops and Trayvon Martin and stuff like that. And continues its war machine that has slaughtered Muslim people with impunity for decades. Talking about Afghanistan, and yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one, guys. Let's get our troops out of the Middle East. The so-called land of the free, in quotes, leads the world in incarceration rates per capita. One of our tenets in Proud Boys is abolish prison. I couldn't agree with you more. See? I hate America's prison system and think it's totally unjust, the amount of men we have in cages. All the while profiteering in the new plantation within the prison walls. Agree. While these atrocities persist unabated, the Metropolitan Republican Club chose to invite a hipster fascist clown to dance for them. That's actually a good insult. It's demeaning, and it makes me sound irrelevant. Good one. Content to revel in their treachery against humanity. See, this is where they're starting to sound treachery against humanity. Imagine you're at a bar, and the dude next to you goes, "Can you believe this treachery against humanity?" You would say, as they say in the movie Idiocracy, you talk like a fag and your shit's all retarded. Antifa talks like a fag and their shit is all retarded. The Republican Party, joined by their spineless partners in crime, the Democrats, institute a policy of domestic and foreign terror felt the world over. So you hate all Republicans and Democrats. Okay. That's quite a swath. And I don't disagree with you per se. I'm pretty sick of the Republican Party too. And I hate the Democrats. I hate the government. Libertarians and anarchists. Libertarians are really just smart anarchists who understand economics. Anarchists are just libertarians when they're babies. I was an anarchist when I was 16. Then I read a book. Our attack is... Now, here's an important part. Our attack is merely a beginning. We are not passive, we are not civil, and we will not apologize. Nor will we. Those of good conscience and clear mind know this state of oppression cannot remain. The U.S. fascist political system is one of the most savage institutions in history, and we will combat it relentlessly until all are free of American barbarism. Can you imagine someone you know using the term American barbarism? You ponce. You perfumed ponce. I read that letter and I think of 17th century aristocrats with knee-high white socks and buckle shoes and flowing pirate shirts with blonde and white wigs, powdered wigs, and a handkerchief that's dipped in perfume that you put over your face when you pass a leper or a homeless person. You are the aristocracy. You talk about the working man and the proletariat, and you're not employed, and you will never have a trade. You are the aristocracy that you say needs to be tore down. And you know why you do that? Because it's your dad. You see your dad is rich, and you resent your own wealth. So you say, eat the rich, destroy the rich. What you really mean is, fuck you, dad. It's so transparent. And I'm so embarrassed for you. You rich bloggers championing Antifa, especially in New York. I mean, in Portland, they're mentally ill and they carry knives. And in Berkeley, they're homeless kids that have been, picked up off the street by these commie lesbian lawyers. But in New York, Jesus Christ, they're all loaded. And these rich kids pick fights with blue-collar dudes who have been to juvie. I mean, I guess we kind of did it as kids ourselves. We were middle-class punk rockers fighting Nazi skinheads, and half the Nazi skinheads were fucking orphans. And they kicked the crap out of us. Now, I know that analogy makes us Nazis, and we're not. But, so, the thing you have to understand about the vandalism in the letter is it's picking a fight. It's a call to arms. Now, at Deplorable, I got in shit for punching a guy in the face because he was an anarchist with a flag, and all he did was walk in front of us, and me. And you go, that's egregious. And it would be if I was on an elevator or going to get some bagels. But the context was there was a hit list out on everyone going to Deplorable. Cernovich, Cassandra Fairbanks, all these girls. And by the way, conservative women in D.C. have a hard time finding a date because everyone hates Trump there, even a lot of Republicans, because he's draining the swamp, and they are the swamp. 5% of people in D.C. voted for Trump. So if you're a lady there who likes Trump, slim pickings. So all these girls, these DC girls, are all dressed up in gowns and high heel shoes, and they look fantastic. And I'm pissed off that they're not allowed to go to a ball and meet a guy. Like, people are throwing batteries, shit, and piss at them. So I'm in a bad mood. And there's this hit list out on who's going and who to fucking attack and kill and maim and throw stuff at. Throw feces at. Like, Tommy Robinson goes to solitary confinement for 10 weeks for inconveniencing Muslim pedophiles, but they throw shit and piss at people who like the fucking president of the United States. Nice value systems, guys. Anyway, we're walking there, and this mob of 500, right, is around the corner, and I see some dude on his phone. I recognize him. He's like some DC Antifa type activist, older guy, commie, and he's on his phone, and he goes, yeah, they're right here. They're trying to get in the side door. And I'm like, it's one thing for someone to have a hit list. It's another thing for people to just talk with impunity about where to find you and how to attack you. Like, what am I, cattle? Is this a fox hunt? And you're just talking, and he's talking very loud, 5 feet from me, to other people in his group about how to attack us best. So I slap his phone out of his hands, and I lick his face. I don't know why I did that, just to freak him out. And he goes, did you just lick my face? And I turn the corner, right? And these people have been told we're coming by this guy. And so there's a mob there. And these Antifa types, they get this mob mentality where if they can punch you in the back of the head or two get on you, then the rest really pour on. They're like hyenas. They don't want to be the first one to attack the lion. But once one or two get in, then they all start biting the tail and trying to get a little dig in without having to suffer any consequences. So they're animals. And if you show fear, the sharks will smell blood. So while this guy does his little passive-aggressive gesture to walk in front of me, I put my hands around his neck and I shove him up against the wall. And he says, do you want to go? And I say, fuck yeah, I do. And I punch him in the head. And that lets the mob know, who's all screaming at us, by the way, that we're not going to sit here and take it. And then we walk in. So I bring that up to say, when there is a notice on the door that says, we are not civil, this is only the beginning, that's called a call to arms. So you've set the atmosphere now. So you can't complain about violence after that, you know? Like if I go to Harlem and I put posters all over the streets saying the Klan is coming, your days are numbered, and then, you know, I'm seen in a Klansman uniform after there's like this neighborhood watch thing, that's different than me just wearing a Klansman uniform. I mean, they're obviously both terrible. But when you set up this climate of fear, you have people that are going to be aggressive, you know? So anyway, the Manhattan Republican Club, Metropolitan Club, they refused to back down. Gay dude running it, very ballsy. He's got a GoFundMe to pay for the repairs. It's going to be like $6,000. They put glue in the locks too, smashed the windows, put glue all over the security system. And it's typical Antifa stuff. They smash it and run away. So I get there, and there's a mob of screaming lunatics, and the cops had been there all day. Tons of cops. I have a lot of support in the NYPD, and I very much appreciate that. The boys in blue. And they're all behind these barricades, and they have one giant banner that says white supremacy that's crossed out. What? We're at an Otoya Yamaguchi thing. Shouldn't that say Asian supremacy? And of course, by the way, Antifa was all white. Proud Boys were probably 75% white. Inevitably, the anti-racists are more white than the people they're calling racist. And they've just ignored that. Like the Think Progress thing I opened this podcast with, it has a picture of Proud Boys, and you see brown and Asian Proud Boys in there, and it's like white supremacists. And I think what they did with that contradiction is they just sort of went, I'm ignoring this. Like, instead of coming up with a reason for why a black could be a white supremacist, they just like, I'm just going to pretend that it's not a contradiction. Like in Vietnam, where we just sort of said, we won this war and brought all the troops home and declared victory. They're just like going right through it, like a cult, really. And what it does is it ostracizes rational, normal people because they go, wait, the black guy's a white supremacist? Yeah, I'm not listening to you anymore. You need some semblance of logic to your argument if you want any kind of support from rational, curious people, which we're seeing less and less of. So I get there, and they have Gavin McInnes spelled wrong as a fascist, and they're screaming their heads off, and they're saying, no Nazis, no KKK, no fascist USA. Had this Otoya Yamaguchi thing, and I was talking to a lot of reporters over the past 24 hours, and I said, look, the Halifax Five went to, they saw that there was an anti-Canada Day rally at this park by the statue, and it said fuck Canada all over the statue and stickers, and these 5 military guys went up and said, what's this about? And there was some drunk lunatic who called herself Chief Grizzly Mama, which is not an Indian thing. No Indians are ever named Chief Grizzly Mama. Said it's an indigenous ceremony, and all these boys who just asked a few questions were then reprimanded by the military. Some were booted out of the Navy. They were naval officers, booted out of the Navy for disrupting an indigenous ceremony, which it most certainly was not. But everyone took that liberal narrative that it was an indigenous ceremony, and even the head of the Navy apologized, and the head of the Canadian military or the Canadian, whatever it was, foreign policy advisor or something in Canada. He's a Sikh guy. And he sent out a tweet that was a formal apology to Chief Grizzly Mama. Like, didn't he ask any Indians, hey, before I send this out, is that a legit name, Chief Grizzly Mama? They just took it. Like, you might as well submit a formal apology to Jello Biafra. Mr. Biafra, we would like to apologize. So I thought, well, if the Halifax Five are vilified for interrupting this ceremony, then Antifa should be vilified for interrupting our Japanese ceremony. We're trying to honor the great Otoya Yamaguchi. So they're all going nuts outside, and all these attendees. And by the way, the Daily News and everyone is saying 50 people were there. This place holds 150 people. There was 200 there. So all the seats were full. It was completely sold out, standing room only, people standing in the back. There was 200 people in a venue that only fits 150, crammed in there. And it was a great talk. You can see it on crtv.com on Monday. Everyone was laughing their heads off. It's like stand-up comedy, really. And my whole speech was basically saying, what the fuck are these people talking about and what do they want? Like, they say we want genocide. How do you commit genocide? Like, what trains do you take? Where are the death camps? Who rents the space for the death camps? And teachers are saying, I stand by my immigrant students, my disabled students. Disabled students? You think Trump's Gestapo is going to be rounding up handicapped people? Like, what planet are you on? Or even with the Kavanaugh hearings, what do you want to happen? You want an allegation to prevent a Supreme Court judge from becoming a judge with no evidence? Is that the system that you want to have? Okay. Has it occurred to you that the right will use that as a weapon against the left, and everyone will? If you just say all it takes is one allegation and that person's ruined? Is that the new law you want? So we're ignoring the Magna Carta and the judicial system now. Is that what you want? Like, I honestly don't even get what they want. You can't be a president if you once fucked a porn star? Okay. Do you think your side can live up to this level of scrutiny that you're just inventing out of thin air? Because they can't. Like fucking Jim Acosta saying, Kanye West just said motherfucker in the White House, in the Oval Office. Yeah, Bill Clinton stuck a cigar up an intern's cunt on that same desk, dude. And why are you such a little tattletale? That was a great line Greg Gutfeld had about Brian Stedler. He goes, you're a turgid tattletale. And they really are. They're not journalists anymore. They're either do PR for Antifa or they're little snitches. Like when we were doing Tommy Robinson's trial and Ezra Levant took a picture inside the courthouse and all the British media was about someone with Tommy Robinson committed contempt of court. Ezra Levant took a picture. You're not allowed to have your phones in there. He took a picture and a video inside the courthouse. He should be arrested. Ugh. That's why you became a journalist, to snitch on other journalists for breaking the rules? So the mob's screaming outside, and they're harassing people who come in, too. There's lots. The Manhattan Republican Club was built in 1930, same time as the Chrysler Building and the Empire State Building when New York was a fucking wonderful place, thriving. Both those buildings, by the way, were built in a year and a half under, when the year of the Great Depression. They're built under budget. Boom. And I think the Empire State Building was built as a fuck you to the Chrysler Building because the Chrysler Building was like the tallest building in the world at the time. So real American spirit, manliness, a real vibrant time. So it's a great building to be in. And it's also been around for so long. You get a lot of old ladies and stuff coming in. About, I'd say, half the audience were above 60. And then there was lots of Proud Boys and millennials and stuff. And so they're getting harassed and screamed at as they come. And to go back to that whole, what do you guys want? Why do you care that someone has a speech? What am I doing? Recruiting Nazi soldiers for my World War IV? I don't understand why you care that someone privately pays $20 to go hear a guy say a speech. What, you want a world where people can't talk to each other in private? We don't endorse white supremacy. Okay, don't endorse it. I mean, I don't endorse it either, for the record. But even if I did, like Richard Spencer should be allowed to have a talk. David Duke should be allowed to have a talk. You don't want people talking? And as I brought up in my speech, that's how America was founded. The Brits made the mistake of promoting free speech and encouraging a lot of dissenting opinions in the various tabloids and newspapers that were up and down the East Coast. They also encouraged a militia and taught people how to use guns and said guns are important, mostly because they didn't want the British military there. The next thing you know, these well-armed militias are having intelligent debates and hashing out details, and they go, why are we even sending money across the ocean to the king? How about we just split and go independent? We got there by talking to each other. And the left doesn't want that because the left knows that if they control the narrative, they control power. That's what political correctness is all about. When they say, oh, no, it's person of color now, and they make up these words like otherness and proto-fascist, when they make up all these silly words and tell you to say them, they're telling you how to speak. When someone tells you how to speak, they're telling you how to think. You should find it kind of curious that black people don't know the latest stupid jargon. You talk to a normal black person, they call themselves black. But white people, no. That's not what you can call yourself. You now call yourself a person of color. Oh, shit. Wasn't it African American? It was, yes. Wait, you're still on black? That was 3 names ago. Jesus. Negro? That was 4 names ago. Don't you get my newsletters? So they're screaming and yelling and calling all these old people Nazis, which isn't that worse than a racial epithet? Or is it at least as bad? You're calling someone a Nazi. Nazis were the worst villains in recent history in the entire world. They murdered 6 million Jews. or 6 million people, 4 million Jews, whatever the numbers are, to call someone that and to say they advocate for that, that seems like a bigger insult than faggot, at least. So I don't understand why there's no taboo when you scream Nazi at people as they're walking in the club, especially old ladies. So they're being terrorized. And again, to go back to the vandalism the day before, you can't separate them. I noticed a lot of the lefties were saying, Fox News totally focused on the vandalism the night before and ignoring the violence. It's the same thing. The vandalism the night before said, you're dead meat. The violence was a reaction to that. And the screaming and yelling at everyone as they come in and go out, that's all part of the same climate, the same culture of fear. Shame, 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 shame. And eventually you keep telling people they suck and they're racist. You're telling black people they're white supremacists. And eventually they go, okay, let's go. Just like I did to that commie in Deplorable when he said, you want to fucking go? Okay, yeah, I do want to go. You keep poking at me. Well, then you advocate violence. No. It's not violence when you get attacked and you fight back. That's not violent. Yeah, but you enjoyed it. Oh, sue me. Sorry, sue me. It feels good to kick the crap out of someone when they're trying to kill you. It feels good to beat someone up when they said that they've told you that they're going to kill you, that this is only the beginning, that they are not civil, and you are on notice. When someone says you're officially on notice and then gets their ass kicked, sorry. And by the way, I'm sorry to jump ahead, but the guy started to cry. And that guy, by the way, I saw him in the video footage. I recognized him as I was coming in. He's got a mohawk and big sort of tribal earplugs. He was there at, say, 6 o'clock. The talk was at 7:20. So he was there an hour before the talk, yelling at people, screaming, and then he was there way after everyone left. So this is not some rant, like the left is trying to portray it as, then this mob walked down the street and were just attacking random people and calling them faggot. No, that's not what happened. I'll get to what happened. So I do the talk. The police have to escort everyone out a block away and then make sure they all individually get into cabs. This is 200 people. They have to shuffle out. 200 sinners who have blasphemed against the alt-left. And everyone's still yelling, and the cops are telling Antifa to leave, and they're not leaving. And they won't let the Proud Boys, there was about 30 Proud Boys, they won't let the Proud Boys leave. By the way, the media says there was 50 people there and 30 were Proud Boys. That doesn't make sense. So eventually they let the Proud Boys leave when everyone seems to have dissipated. And there wasn't that many people out. And that's when I decide to leave. And I come out, and I've got my Otoya Yamaguchi outfit on. Oh, no, I think I'd taken the shirt off at that point. So I have this plastic toy, this samurai sword I got at a toy store. And I pull it out, and I say, 7 lives for my country, which is Otoya's last words. And I said, all hail Otoya Yamaguchi. And they're screaming, fuck. They're so mad, so triggered. Like, you haven't seen screaming like this. This isn't screaming like at a football game where you're like, fuck yeah, you suck. Go Mets. You know, or any kind of normal sports yell. Yeah, all right. This was like, the maddest, like, fuck yeah, like the kind that's tearing at their own esophagus as they scream because they can't yell loud enough, like completely hysterical banshees, which was the whole point of the talk, in a way, to trigger. And they were triggered. And then, so I get in the car, I have my suitcase because I was coming from D.C., got a big suitcase and throw everything in the back, and it's my buddy driving, and then they whip, I thought it was a rock. They whip a rock at the car, but it wasn't. It was, I guess 50 Cent has his own vodka now. It's called Ciroc or something, and it's a little tiny bottle. It looks like a little tube. And so that means it's quite thick, you know? It's like the size of a air conditioner remote. And they throw that at us, and a small bottle like that's not going to break. You need like a big bottle with thin glass. So it hits the roof, it stays on the roof, and then it slowly rolls into the driver's hand. And he's like, what the fuck is this? Is this vodka? And then you see at the bottom, you see it's piss. So we saved it, actually, because I want to use it as, I don't know, evidence. I want to document it. And so he just caught it with his hand. He goes, shit, that's the most Spider-Man thing I've ever done. And he puts it in the sidecar, the sort of door thingamadoodle. And we drive off. So that's me gone to a secret location. But the 30 guys are still walking down the street. Now, Antifa had been waiting to ambush them. But they got bored, and they're lazy and stupid. And maybe some of them were getting funding. Like the signs, I know that sounds like a trivial detail, but allow it to creep up on you. It's the kind of thing that bugs you maybe 2 hours after you hear it. And you go, perfectly printed signs, huh? On foam core. Well graphic designed. Name spelled wrong, of course, but otherwise very well done. And by the way, the white supremacy, no white supremacy banner was beautiful. It was like a nice yellow textile. I don't know, it was thick as denim. And then the letters were like felt, and it was beautifully sewn on. Very professional job. And then the X that crossed out the white supremacy, that was also sewn on. And this isn't like you go to the Women's March and it's like a shitty drawing of a pussy and some dumb pun. At least you can tell that's organic, relatively. By the way, I think the Women's March was a bunch of people who bought plane tickets and hotels assuming Hillary would win. And when they didn't, they still had to go. So, like, just make it a march. So you can tell when protests are fake. And you can tell by the signs. And these signs were clearly paid for by someone else. So maybe these people, the deal was you have to stay till like an hour after the talk. And they're like, I'm not sticking around. I already made my money. I don't know. But by the time these Proud Boys were turning the corner, there's only about 3 Antifa left. And being imbeciles who have never been in a fight before, they see the first 2 or 3 guys come around the corner who are all huge. And by the way, these are all blue-collar guys, New Yorkers. They work on the railroads. They're born and raised in the Bronx and stuff. They're ready to fight. And Antifa in New York are all Columbia students. Why are you picking a fight with a guy from the Bronx who works on the railroads? You know what they do? You know the Metro North and all that, the railroad tracks? Those guys make tons of money, by the way. Blue-collar guys in New York make $100,000. Electricians, plumbers, railroad dudes. The guy who punches your ticket makes $80,000 a year. And only works 2 shifts and gets paid for 10 hours. So the blue collars in New York have rigged the system quite well for themselves. But they also have to fucking bust their ass. And the guy I'm thinking of who works in the railroads, when there's a beef with another guy, they go to a fighting room. And it's not taboo. It's just like a thing. It's like going to the bathroom. Like, Eddie's really pissed at you. Okay, fine, let's work it out. And then they go to this like room next to the coffee room, and they have a fist fight. It's just part of their daily vocabulary. I had a coffee, I took a shit, I fought Eddie. So that's who they're... And then, meanwhile, the Columbia student is, I'm just going to sit there and type an essay about American barbarism that I can nail to a door and run away. Very different lifestyles. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but you'd think the latter wouldn't want to pick a fight with the former. Anyway, they did. So they grabbed the first guy's MAGA hat. And so then... they realize, oh shit, this isn't 2 or 3, there's 30. And these guys just, this is after all, everything is culminated now. So to isolate that 1 second, like they did with Rodney King and just show the very end, is not accurate reporting. Seeing that guy grab that MAGA hat, that is a culmination of the past 30 hours of bullshit. And people screaming, we're going to kill you, and you're a Nazi, and fuck you, and this is only the beginning, and you're on notice, and we are not civil, and this is a war, and blah, blah, blah. Fight, fight, fight. Uh-oh. Sorry, my wife texted me, but it's not important. It's about dinner. And so when you see that MAGA hat, you're like, oh, these are the people that are going to kill me? And these guys, by the way, they were ready to rumble. The NYPD wouldn't let them confront Antifa, but they were like just sick of this shit. This isn't just a bunch of guys who want to beat people up. This is the first group to say, you know what, Antifa? You're not anti-fascist. You're anti-American. And all you want to do is you're a domestic terrorism group. You are the what did I call them before? The military wing, the paramilitary wing of the DNC. You're the thugs, and you bully people, you terrorize people, you dox them, you threaten their wives. You've got Rand Paul's wife sleeping with a loaded gun every night. You fucking strangle old men. You terrorize Trump supporters, and we're not going to take it anymore. You want to fight? Fine, I'll fight. That's different than going and fag bashing in the West Village.
That's like gang stuff. We're not